chair will come up and see if I can get up to the board level.
Good evening. We're going to call to order this March 7th meeting of the Board of Commissioners. Please join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If there's no changes to the minutes...
We need to do the roll call first.
Let's do roll call first.
Okey doke. Lathrop?
I'm here.
Mayor?
Here.
Gorfulet? Here. Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Johnson?
Here.
Klaus?
Here.
And Commissioner Crawford is excused tonight.
Now, if there's no changes to the minutes, they're approved as presented.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting, February 21st, 2018. Support.
Approved by Commissioner Mayer, supported by Commissioner Wheelock. All those in favor?
Aye.
This is opportunity for the first public comment. Bonnie, would you please read the rules?
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson. Please be respectful and refrain from personal or political attacks.
Anybody for public comment? Please come up.
Hello, my name is Ryan Hannon. My address is 3753 South Airport Road West. And in my occupation, I'm the street outreach coordinator. I reach out to people experiencing homelessness on the streets. And I just wanted to come address you guys. There was a report in the news recently about renovation of, it's the old Country Inn and Suites, which includes 15 units for youth experiencing homelessness. And I think the news forgot to include in there that the units that the youth who are experiencing homelessness will live in are accompanied by a subsidy. So the units will be less expensive than the rest of the units, and then the subsidy will help the youth pay for it. There will also be on-site case management for each youth in there, and there will also, one of those 15 units will be designated for a RA, someone who will be there to be on hand to help with any issues. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Any questions?
Thank you.
Where is that?
The old days in Wisconsin.
They're renovating it to be like one-bedroom apartments.
On Munson, but where?
Just past the college on the right.
Oh,
Right.
great location.
Where the cottage cafe is.
Good location.
Yeah, and it's really hard to find places to rent, even when we have subsidies for people. So it's really important that that project like that goes through, and it's nice to be in town where people can access things and be able to move about. So it's a great effort in our efforts towards ending homelessness, which we have a really good handle on how to do that. The biggest hiccup we have is actually finding units affordable that the landlord will take the person and the subsidy to go with it. Now, not everyone ends their homelessness through a subsidy, but that's one of the biggest ways we help the most needy in our community. There's also a meeting. We have a collaborative body that meets once a month to essentially establish the homelessness response system, and do our due diligence as a community with the federal and state dollars we are allocated to help end homelessness. We're having a informational meeting on how the system works on March 14th at 1 p.m. at Michigan Works. If anyone's interested to learn how we address systematically homelessness and allocate those dollars prioritized for people in need who need it the most first.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? We'll go on to approval of the agenda. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to have add or change on the agenda? Not? We'd like a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda is provided.
Support. Consent calendar.
It's on.
Yep.
I'm sorry, who supported? Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? We have an agenda. Bonnie, can you read the consent calendar, please?
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single commission action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, Northwest Michigan Community Action Agency minutes of January 18th. Number 2, Michigan Township Association Grand Traverse County chapter minutes of February 1st and March 1st. B, approvals. Number 1, appointments to boards and committees, Building Authority, EDC, and Land Bank. Number 2, 2018 hauler licenses. Number 3, intergovernmental agreement for Next Generation 911 call handling system. Number 4, letters of amendment, COAM Central Dispatch Supervisory Unit. Number 5, update to Grand Traverse County 911 Board of Directors bylaws.
Does anybody want to have anything removed from the consent? Tom?
B1.
Sorry?
That's the same one I want to talk about.
Okay. Does staff want anything removed from the consent calendar? All right.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the consent calendar with the removal of item B1, please.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There's no special order of business, so we'll take up the items removed from the consent calendar. Tom?
Yes. B1 is appointments to boards and committees, Building Authority, EDC, Land Bank. I believe that the only one we need to discuss tonight is the Land Bank, not the Building Authority or the EDC. We're going to be replacing our county administrator within the next few months, and I don't see a big reason for having an appointment from one of our interim administrators to the Building Authority or the EDC, and I'm willing to discuss it.
Okay.
Well, I think the discussion when we talked about an interim administrator was that we weren't going to ask them to take on those kinds of responsibilities. They weren't asking them to be part of the hiring process of staff or anything else. I think it's appropriate that we just leave those to, Building Authority doesn't meet every month. The Brownfield does, but there's plenty of members that can have an opportunity to speak. I don't know that we need to have one of our interim people there. Dean Bott's been county administration's representative to the land bank pretty much as long as I've sat on that bank. I think the date was back to 2008. So, I have no problem with appointing Dean to the Land Bank Authority. I think that's just a continuation of where he was, but I don't think the responsibilities of Brownfield and EDC and those should fall down on our interim administrators. They've got enough on their plate already.
I'm perfectly fine with that. If you want to take more stuff off my plate.
You got a list?
I guess was there some particular reason that we needed to fill one of these positions?
The positions were always, there were members, were the county administrator or their designee, and I know there's been a lot of changeover continuously. We couldn't even keep up with it for a little bit there. Just to make sure that there were enough people on the boards. Building Authority does meet every month now because they have the PACE project. Lots of bills going in. EDC, I'm not sure, but I'm sure they meet every month also. And the biggest concern was Land Bank Authority because everybody expired except for Sunny. So we do need to reappoint the treasurer, Heidi Sheppy, and if it's okay to appoint Dean Bott as the county administrator designee. And then the Brownfield Authority also appointed at their meeting Richard Lewis as the Brownfield representative. So I put a memo on your desk that asked you to please maybe consider ratifying that one too, so we have enough people on that land bank.
So it's renewing Dean at the land bank and adding Richard Lewis?
It's renewing Dean and Heidi and
And Heidi.
adding Richard Lewis.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Well, I move that we reappoint Heidi and Dean and add Richard Lewis to the Land Bank Authority.
Support.
Moved by Commissioner Mayer, supported by Commissioner Follett. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. So now
Do
we're-
we have a quorum for the Building Authority and EDC without having these appointments?
Yes, we have two citizens. It's Nick Agostinelli, Sally Erickson, and then Dean sits on it, Heidi sits on it. That's it, right?
By the bylaws too, I think.
Right, and then I clerk it, so.
I think we've
I think
got
they're
enough
okay.
representation there. We can get by for a couple
And
of months.
EDC
until
should
we
be fine.
fill this.
There's a lot of members on E EDC.
Yeah, there's a lot of members on EDC because
Right.
it was redone. So. Okay, so my suggestion would be that we not appoint Nate and Chris to the ones that were suggested in here. I don't think they need the extra duties and responsibilities, and I believe we can still meet the needs of the county.
That takes us to departmental items, Commission on Aging. And if Cindy, the director, would like to take it.
Hi, I'm Cindy Kinlan with Commission on Aging. So I presented you with bylaws for you to review and approve, hopefully.
Question, comment?
Go ahead.
Cindy, did Chris help you with those?
Yes, he reviewed them, and Nate also.
Great. Good job. I thought they were very well done.
Thank you.
Very clear, very concise. I thought they were very well done. So congratulations to all of you on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like to make a motion?
I will
I would
support the
move that we
motion to approve the bylaws of
There
the
you go.
Commission on Aging.
There you go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
She made the motion. I
Opposed?
support
Okay.
it. She was drinking at the time.
I was
you.
drinking it. Thank you, Cindy.
Takes us to Central
You know,
Dispatch.
It is what it is.
Commissioners, I'll just do a brief introduction. I asked Jason Torrey, this initially was going to be on the consent calendar, so I asked Jason Torrey not to just give his annual report, but I thought it would be a good idea, since we're in year 3 of the surcharge, that he let the board and really the public know where things stand with the surcharge, how it's been performing, and what is in store for the future.
All right, thanks, Chris. Jason Torrey, 911 Director. Let me get this. In your packet, I did submit the annual report. I'll take questions as we go, but I just want to highlight a few of the things in here that I think are important for you all to know. I'm going back to the telephone statistics. We did take just a handful of less actual calls in 2017. I would contribute the non-emergency calls, the decline in that call volume is about 2,500 to our audit system. We incorporated audits to filter out people quicker and get them to the right place, so it doesn't put a burden on the dispatch staff, and it's helped out tremendously. We did have about a 1,500 call reduction in our 911 calls. That's a direct correlation to the reduction of our total cellular 911 hang-up calls. Last year, we talked about this, and I told you that we deal with about 25% of our incoming 911 calls were hang-ups, or pocket dials, or missed dials. That number went down 15% in 2017. I would contribute that to education, in addition to technology. And quite frankly, some of the cellular phone providers educating the public when they issued them a phone that this will happen if you hit this button, right? This will call the emergency. This is how this works. So they've been helping us in that regard. And so that's kind of decreased the call volume just a little bit for 2017. I'm proud to say that we're still way above the standard in the NENA standard for call answer times. We're about 97% of our incoming 911 calls are answered within 3 seconds. The standard is to have at least 90% of those answered within 10 seconds. So we're outpacing the standard by a long shot. We did see a 3.2% increase in calls for service dispatch. So even though our call volume, our incoming call volume went down, we're sending more resources to more incidents in 2017 by 3.2%. I mean, I can't directly relate that to anything specific other than the growing population. There's more people in town. We're seeing more visitors. We have more things going on a regular basis, so we just have more incidents that do occur. And then, text to 911 was a big one. I don't know if you had a chance to just review exactly what we had in there, but we launched that in June of 2017. In 2017, we received 58 incoming text to 911 events. At least a handful of those were significant because they actually had participants that could not call and make a voice call. They were in a domestic situation where they were right next to an assailant or the suspect, and so it was for their safety that they couldn't make a voice call, but they could text. And so the ability for them to do that without that guy or that gal knowing that's right next to them was imperative for their safety. And who knows how those events could turn out if that wasn't available. So super excited to have that opportunity and that functionality. But more importantly, we placed 1,751 outgoing text messages. Why that's significant is because we get these 911 calls that come in, these missed dials, or pocket dials or hang-ups, and a lot of people just won't answer their phone when you call them back. You try and call them back 3, 4, 5, 6 times, they won't answer the phone. So what does that do to us? It puts an obligation on us to send the sheriff's office at least 1 car, maybe 2 cars, or the city police to go investigate that. So we have to go searching for all these 911 hang-up calls to verify whether there is or is not a true emergency occurring. So that's the text to 911 has allowed us to reach out to those folks, and we're getting a significant amount of those people responding back to us. Where they wouldn't answer the call because they didn't know who we were, if we text them, they'll respond to you.
Well,
so that's saved resources on the back end.
When the caller ID comes in or the number comes in on the phone, though, it's all zeros.
No, it says 911.
Does yours say 911? Because all the county stuff comes through as
Not
all
anymore.
zeros.
What's that? Oh,
At least
it's our
mine doesn't.
non-emergency number? Okay, I'm sorry. It says 922-4550.
I know that number too.
Yeah, still there. So anyway, that's significant. And that's helped maintain the resources on the road for other things that are more important to law enforcement. Because quite frankly, 99% of those events, they're not true emergencies. They're just missed dials or pocket dials or something of that nature. We continue to grow in our Smart 911 and rate facility profile development. So we're protecting about 12,000 citizens today. That's probably tops in the state, if not tops in a lot of states in the nation. We're protecting with 4,162 safety profiles, personal ones. And then the facility profiles were up to 16. Now that doesn't seem like a lot, but most of these are significant businesses or complexes. So they created a facility profile that kind of gives us an outline of they geo-fence an area and all their buildings within that area, and they give us key information about that complex. That's important not only to to us, but to law enforcement, fire, and EMS. And so when a call is placed from within that geofence, we're able to access that information and utilize it when we send people to respond there for whatever event's occurring. So we're continuing to work on that, reach out to some of our local businesses and see if we can get them to participate in that process. Social media, we're up to 44,000 Facebook likes, users, followers, whatever they're called. But that's significant. I mean, that's half of our population by the numbers, right? We're trying to use that every day, as many of you probably know, to educate the public on what they can expect on their morning commute, if there's a significant traffic reroute, things that are important to them, educational, and at the end, they just keeps them involved in public safety and what's going on out there. Prior to that, they really, they might see the fire truck going down the road, but when you see it lining up, right, and there's a fire in Carl Lane and there's an accident here and there's things, people get a better idea of the public safety process and what's really going on in a big picture. And then our accomplishments, like I said, I think the biggest one for 2017 was our text to 911. I think that's going to change the landscape of how people can communicate with us, at least a start. We did a lot of education, and we finally finished our transition to our new IP-based 911 circuits, which puts us in the new next generation 911 element and provides a foundation for us to receive those calls on IP technologies versus the old analog technologies. And then this year, I know that Ming's following me, so I just want to put a plug in for the fact that we're doing this CAD Enterprise upgrade. It's extremely important that the network storage devices that she's going to ask for and is going to request in their budget be approved to support that project. That's going to, again, it's a forklift deal. We're going to forklift out our CAD system that we know it today. We're going to drop in a new one, but it's going to provide all sorts of new bells and whistles that are only going to help us going down the road. So we'd appreciate the support there.
Questions?
Yes.
Sure.
Do you have a way of, I'm sure that you track all the calls and where they come from and who they come from. Do you have any data points on how many calls we get from visitors that are visitor-related versus resident-related? Do you have that stat? Because you
No.
talked about, how the call volume goes up based on visitors.
I mean, we have statistics based on, the time of the year and things that are events that are occurring, like the Cherry Festival. But with the port,
we have become such a year-round
yes, true.
location. I mean, we were going down state, and the cars coming north at 10 o'clock on a Friday night were a constant stream, and I didn't think they were going to Manton, okay? I think they were probably going to Traverse City, and there were hundreds of them. And so I'm just curious, I think it would be helpful for us to know how much of our local resources are going to support non-local people, because this is part of a very big part of our fund that we expend. So I don't know if there's a way for you to tag that, or if I could just throw that out as
I mean, it'd be a manual process, I do believe, because you have the portability factor now with your cell phone numbers. It used to be you could say, well, all the 231 area codes obviously came from here.
Sure.
But that's not the case anymore.
Okay, let me clarify. When you get a call to provide service to someone, send out an ambulance, a fire truck, police, don't you gather data at that time?
We do.
Okay, so that would be the point where you would know if they're a Traverse City resident or if they're from...
I mean, I understand where you're going with that. I think
Yep.
it'd probably add another layer into the call-taking interrogation process that we probably don't have to regularly have time to do. But
Okay, and I'm just saying, if there's a way that you can add a box that you can check, it might be helpful to us down the road to have that information.
with this new CAD system, I'm going to explore that. and see
There
if
you
that's a
go.
possibility.
That's
may
the
be
answer
able
I'm
to
looking
track-
for.
We may be able to track whether or not the destination are hotels and motels and restaurants.
Sure.
That would probably be a more likely way of being able to track it than to actually track the individual who was making the call.
Yeah, I don't know, I just know that, get a lot of calls, police get a lot of calls to rescue animals out of cars. And a lot of those animals they're rescuing out of cars are not local animals, they're animals that came up for a trip for the weekend and they got locked in the car, so.
I can tell you that from an incident standpoint,
we can identify the location of the incident and run queries by address. So we, at one point, were inquiring if we had a certain amount of out-of-county population in the jail system, we were able to do that. So I think, maybe not through 911, but I think through our AEGIS system, we can probably get that type of reporting to you.
Well, if no one else thinks it would be valuable, I don't want to add a layer to you.
Well, what would you do with it? I mean,
Well-
yeah, you say, all right, we're using it, because we know with every service we have, that we're using a lot for visitors, tourists, but then what do you do with it, I guess, is the so what?
I don't know.
You know?
And that's, and the point is that you don't know what you don't know until you don't know it. I mean, let's say
Make a career out of
let's
that.
say that we found out that, 40% of our resources were being expended on people who weren't our tax base. And we go to our legislators and we say, hey, we need some help here because 40% of what our infrastructure costs are going for are for people that don't even live here, that don't pay taxes here. I'm just saying, it's something that...
I think that's an argument we need to make with the legislatures anyway about
Sure,
a
but-
hotel motel tax.
but right now we don't
We've
have
had
the
that
data.
discussion 50 times at least since I've been here, but the bottom line is, unless you either get the legislature to change the state law or you can get an exemption like Kalamazoo did, we do not qualify.
I understand that.
We need to push on our legislators to see about figuring out some way that we do qualify
Okay.
or we get an exemption.
And all I'm saying is that it's easier to push when you have something to push with. And right now, we don't know.
No, I recently rented a motel room in Vegas. I had to be there for a medical emergency that my dad was having. And the room was $36.99 a night, and the hotel motel tax was $28.34.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I just paid $5 coming and going in Georgia that went straight to Georgia for their highways. Boom. I mean, something's got to be done.
So we got 2 more years, basically in 2020 is when this millage is up?
The surcharge is set to expire.
Or surcharge, not a
In
millage.
2021. And I'm going to walk through some of that in the next part
Okay,
of the
'cause
presentation.
I mean, I just can imagine where we'd be at today if that would not have passed. We were on the verge of disaster.
Right.
And just the fact that we're light years ahead because you have done your due diligence with the funding. It'll be important to keep that up. I mean, you could probably cut it down some, but with a good, robust plan on capital improvements, because with technology, the great thing about technology is you have to replace it a lot more often, so if you don't have a plan in there, but anyway, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Any other questions on the report before I move on?
Oh, you still have more to do, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I have a question on the last page, but I'll wait for you.
Oh, go ahead. We're going to move into that. We're going to move to that surcharge discussion in a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Okay. So I'm glad you brought that up because that's a segue right into what I'm going to talk about next, which is kind of a recap to where we started from, right? Just a few years ago. Kind of how that surcharge has impacted not only the department and the things that we're able to do for the citizens, but also the county's financial status. So if you have any questions as we walk through this, I think if you can let me get through it all, I think it'll give you a better big picture, and then we can talk about it. But back in 2014, Grand Traverse County 911 was in need of about $3.9 million in technology and communication upgrades. Critical systems, including our voice radio communications, first responder paging, and backroom telephone equipment, was end of life, it was unsupported, and it was simply inadequate. Then, in 2014, the 911 budget received nearly $650,000 in general fund appropriation just to cover the operational obligations. So in November of 2014, with the Board of Commissioners' approval, we did submit for a ballot request to increase the 911 local surcharge from the 80 cents that we were assessing to a cap of $1.85 per device to support the operational needs and the technology needs. So in August 2015, the Board of Commissioners approved the upgrades. They included the following: the IP-based 911 call handling system that's capable of supporting next-generation 911 functionality, including the text to 911 that I talked about, recording and logging servers, the 911 circuit conversion that's aimed at improving reliability and reduce the vulnerability for downtime. We upgraded 6 Motorola MCC 7500 IP-based dispatch consoles, which are directly integrated into the core of the Michigan Public Safety Communications System, providing full functionality, the ability to do anything we want on that technology. We deployed over 800 mobile and portable radios for Grand Traverse County first responders, utilizing the 800 megahertz technology and increasing not only their coverage, but the quality of the radio communications, the reliability, and improved safety for all the users. We're also the first users of the new 800 megahertz paging technologies in the nation. We saved hundreds of thousands of dollars off a standalone system. The Motorola contract pricing for a standalone VHF simulcast paging system was about $500,000. It would include $25,000 to $30,000 in yearly maintenance, would require a refresh in 8-10 years. Instead, we invested less than $150,000 in this new technology with absolutely no other costs associated with it except for the devices themselves. We took a leap of faith, kinda, on that one, but I'm proud to say that public safety collectively decided that that's what they wanted to do, and not only from a operational perspective, but from a financial perspective, they're being very conscious of where we're at. So at the same meeting, the commissioners also discussed the continued need of the general fund appropriation to fund the necessary upgrades. Although the appropriation was reduced because of the new surcharge, Central Dispatch annual budget still included a large general fund appropriation for years 2015 through 2018. But with the voter-approved surcharge, the county's growing population, and the constant increasing popularity of mobile devices, the actual general fund support of 911 has decreased significantly. We have a graph on your screen that shows the contrast between 2014 and where we're at today in the previous year of 2017. 2014, prior to the voter-approved surcharge increase, we were contributing $645,000, or budgeting for $645,000 general fund appropriation just to maintain the operational budget. Today, or in 2017, we only needed $45,370.18 of general fund appropriation, not only to cover the operational needs of the department, but that also includes the lease payment back towards the purchase of all of their infrastructure and technology upgrades, $3.9 million. So although it's too early to determine the actual general fund support for 2018, it is expected that the general fund cost to operate 911 will continue to be less than projected. The decrease in the need to use the general fund dollars to support 911 in the operation demonstrates the importance of the 911 surcharge and shows the surcharge helps maintain the county's overall financial health. The 911 Board of Directors is actively strategizing for the future of 911 well past 2021 when the surcharge expires or is set for renewal. And we look forward to providing the Board of Commissioners with information related to the following. Personnel. How is our staffing? Is it adequate to meet the needs of a growing population, call volume, and the actual work involved? The more and more demands of the public, the more and more features that are available to us, the more and more demanding it becomes for that dispatcher to do their work. Technology itself, what's on the horizon for the future of call delivery and public expectations. I had a situation last night where the dispatch supervisor says, hey, look at this one. There was a text to 911 event, but the guy was doing it from his watch. Okay, then he says, if you want to track my location, just accept this, and here's a hyperlink. So he hit it, and he's able to track the location like a Fitbit type of device, right, where he was going. So those are the things that are coming that we kind of see on the back end coming down, but the public doesn't even understand that those things will be available to them in the future. And then what's the life expectancy of our existing systems? When do we got to refresh them? What's the server? Is that 5 years, 10 years? What about the radios? Those might have a different shelf life. And then our existing facility. We remodeled that in 2009. We pretty much outfitted it to its exact specifications at that point in time. So we don't really have any room to grow. So if you grow your staffing, you're going to have to look at your building or your facility and what you have to offer. Will we need more space? Should the 911 operation be involved in a broader conversation such as a jail construction or law enforcement, more like a public safety complex concept? So with all that said, the local surcharge is going to be renewed or set to renew in 2020, probably the November 2020 election process, with a renewal date that would take effect July 1st of 2021. These are all things that we want to bring back to you to make a very, conscious decision about how we need to move forward and how that surcharge needs to be assessed going past 2021. Any questions?
No, I think that Jason and his staff have done a fabulous job of maximizing the benefit of the surcharge. I certainly thank the public for their support, and I think that, we need to recognize, the efforts that are being made by our first responders and our central dispatch to provide public safety in this community. Public safety here is a key piece of the quality of life that people live here for. And these are the things that are behind the scene that people don't think about, but they are very, very important to ensure public safety in our community.
Yes, Tom. As far as equipment in the 911 department, most of the equipment, or all of it, is it purchased and not leased, or?
Everything that we have is purchased.
Purchased, okay.
Correct.
One of my things is warranties, just to make sure that if you have warranties on equipment that people are aware before any additional money is spent, because maybe some of it is covered by warranty.
Yeah, I mean, the big ticket item in that upgrade was our radio communications, and we did get a 5-year warranty with that. So the first year was a bumper to bumper. Now we're in this box to ship the atmosphere, right? So we just got to send it in, they'll fix it, send it back. And that's Motorola. Sent it to the depot. They've been really good at returning that stuff, and I'm really confident that we shouldn't have any issues going forward.
Have you had any issues with the 800 radios?
That's
what you're talking about?
Yeah,
Okay. No.
The Motorola 800 radios, both the consoles and the equipment in the field, the portables and the mobiles in the rigs.
So
When you talk about the paging, that's the other side of that. That's Unication product, and they were new to us. A lot of us didn't know, hey, who's Unication, where'd they come from? But they've been in business a long time. We did purchase a 3-year warranty with them. They've been extraordinary at returning and just, if you have a problem, I'm going to replace it. Probably has something to do with the fact that we were the first in the nation to take on that new product and actually use it. But it's working out really well.
Sure. What about, one of the things on the last page is personnel. How is staffing? You're asking the question, so how is staffing?
Well, staffing today is good. Knock on wood real quick. We were bringing on our last open position. We're going to hire that gentleman hopefully in the next week or so. We have all but 2 that are independently working, so they're completely trained and able to answer calls and do all the dispatch functions. But that's important to us because I've said this at previous meetings. It takes a year plus to get somebody comfortable and competent in the requirements of the work to let them do that on an independent level. So it's not like you can throw them in there and 3 weeks later they're doing their own thing. So it takes time. So if you lose 1 or 2 of a staff of 18 that you use on the floor, that could be significant. So right now we're doing good. And if we have everybody, the staffing level is adequate to handle the workload as it sits today. But if you lose 3 or 4, then you get into situations where you have overtime and you're burning people out. Those are things that I think about. And we're going to work on that going forward, and hopefully in the next couple of years as we go towards this 2021 date, we're setting ourselves up for success long-term with that.
Cheryl.
Who's on the 911 board?
There's 10 members. That includes Carol Crawford, 3 fire representatives, Michigan State Police, the county sheriff, the city police, emergency management, and myself.
Thank you.
Welcome. The only comment I have is that representing Mayfield and Grant Township, who contracts with Buckley Fire and Safety for their fire and rescue, they are, on a yearly basis, they do pony up for money for Buckley Fire and Rescue for their radios. And if there would be any way that Grand Traverse County could help out with them radios and not have to have the townships pay twice, because everybody in the township's paying the surcharge also. That would be, I don't know if they were overlooked or how that happened, but they feel a little left out when they have to buy radios along with.
Yeah, we did not outfit them with radios, like you said, but I think if you check back in with them today, I think they were able to get a grant or do something. I think they're outfitted with 800s right now.
Mayfield and Grant Township both have paid. I don't believe Buckley Fire has received the grant yet.
Okay.
I think they were trying to get a grant through the tribe, but I don't think that came through yet.
Well, interoperability is extremely important. When you talk about mutual aid events and automatic aid, having the ability to talk to your incoming department, right, that's helping you out for those certain situations, usually they're bigger than just a grass fire, is extremely important. So I can take that back to the board and have a discussion about that.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you. Any other questions for him? Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
That takes us to informational technology.
Well, Ming is coming up. If I could talk to you for a moment about this. Ming has worked a lot on this presentation, and she and her staff have done a lot of work preparing the information and spent some time educating myself and the other, Mr. Bott and Mr. Forsythe on this. The first step, she has 3 presentations to make. The first presentation is for the storage area network. That money is already in the budget and has been approved for 2018. There are 2 other items that she will present that we can discuss at that point, but at least 2 of these 3 items have already been budgeted for 18.
So I'm really excited. I'm really happy. I can't wait for go to this one. So my first item that I'm going to bring up is the storage area network. Actually, Jason already mentioned is partial of his project too. So just a little recap, which is you guys already know that is multiple times that I mentioned that SAN, which is the storage area network, is outdated, is reaching max. The capacity is no way we can carry on any more future projects. So that's why we need to replace it. So I posted the RFP in January 24 and it ended on February 8th. We have good response. We have 9 solutions in 5 vendors. And we definitely did our due diligence. John sit next to me, behind me now. Actually, he did a lot of work. He's the server admin for the county. And Jean and I and John did a thorough review for all the vendors. And I'm really happy to choosing this vendor. I recommend the Access Interactive to be the SAN replacement vendor. And actually this bid is the lowest out of the 9 solution. But I truly believe, and John believe, that that is the best solution and it's the best hardware out of the 9. And also the pricing, I get a 39% discount rate for the hardware pricing, because this vendor that I'm choosing is able to use the Oakland G2G contract. So that's really awesome. So we got definitely more for the money that we spend. So I would like to request for the board approve the awarded vendor, which is Access Interactive. So annually, because I mentioned that I was going to do a leasing, actually I'm under budget, so the annual cost is $76,619.85, and will be a 5-year lease. And then the last, and the 5th year, we can do a $1 buyout. So the total project is $383,099.30.
So moved.
Support.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank
Opposed?
you. Thank you so much. So the next item, the second item actually is another major project for this Phase 1 action plan. Also, I had mentioned before, as of now, more than 60% of switches is well past of end of life and no more vendor support. And also, the current firewall will be end of the vendor support this year in September. So this is something that I have to address quick, but I would like to do in 3 stages. So the action plan, I mentioned that is a 3-stage solution, so it's a multi-year solution. My goal day for the RFP to be out is first week of April, and then bring it back to you guys for approval, a second board meeting of May. But I'm asking your permission to post all phases in one RFP for this RFP. It just makes sense to me to have one, pretty much pretty much is have a solution oriented to build something as architecture we design for a network. It doesn't make sense to have another person write a second and a third plan. So that's kind of what I'm asking you. Is that okay to write one RFP for 3 stages?
Question? So you'd be looking at the next 3 years' budget?
I didn't finish. So I want to present, how to say it, so I would like to post it for the 3 stages. But the Phase 2 and Phase 3 is still up on the budget during that year, and also will bring back for your approval.
Okay, but just so I understand, I mean, it makes sense to me exactly what you're doing, but as far as a budgetary impact, it would be spread out over 3 years.
Yes.
Which really works in well with our long-range plan of actually having a 3-year budget cycle, so I think that's great.
You find you may be able to get it a lot cheaper than what you think. Well, not a lot, but cheaper because you bundle it.
There you go. There you go. Thank you.
I guess the one comment that I have is, depending on how we put the RFP together and how the vendors choose to do this, we may actually be able to put together some way to actually implement this sooner instead of later and pay for it over the 3 years, sometimes those things happen, not every time, but sometimes, obviously you're not going to do something this big and go to one vendor for the first phase and a different vendor for the second phase and a different vendor for the third. It'll never come together doing it that way. But I think that by putting this out as a total project and then possibly just listed as an option of providing it in 3 phases, we may actually find a vendor who is willing to, move forward with this project and spread the payments over 3 years. We may actually get more than the equipment that we have listed in Phase 1 may actually come to us sooner instead of later. But I think it makes sense to bid out the total project and then list it as options to phase it.
So these are your estimates. We don't know what the RFPs are going to come back at, but
Yes.
this is your best guess.
I'm going to try my best.
Because obviously,
Negotiate.
if they're significantly different, we'd have to talk.
I try really hard, even with the sand.
I know you do.
2 weeks negotiation to get to that pricing,
You
so
need a motion on
I
that?
need a motion.
So moved.
I'll support,
thank you again.
but I really would like to see the RFP put out for the entire project, and then possibly even just give the vendors an option of how they would suggest to phase it, rather than itemize the list, because it may work out better to our benefit to do one part, maybe leave out one piece that we think is in part of Phase 1 and do half of Phase 2 or something like that in there, from their point of view. So let's have the vendors tell us where the phase split should be.
Could we clarify what that means, Sonny? I just want to be sure that we understand, because
Well, my idea is that we would put the entire project out and then make it an option to do it in 3 phases and let them tell us which parts of it can be in Phase 1 and which parts can be in Phase 2. We may actually find that it works out better for us and for them.
Okay, so I want to be sure that you're not suggesting that we ask for a potential vendor to piece out the phases? You're asking for the whole package, but can you move it forward?
I want the whole package, but I want to move it forward.
Oh, understood.
And they may say that, okay, look, we can't do, a specific piece, but, this part that you had listed in Phase 2, we're going to go ahead and put it in there now.
Yes. Understood.
And what I think what he's also saying is, if they want to go ahead and move forward, you could also say, well, for 2019, you go ahead and install all of it now, and in 2019, we'll give you the second phase dollars, and in 2020, the rest of it.
Cheryl, you're the motion maker. Are you comfortable with all
this
that?
painter?
I am. I mean, I think that the way she presented it, it sort of looked like that's the way it would shake down anyway, but yeah, I'm comfortable with that.
Dan?
I just want to make sure that I can see we're planning these 3 phases, and almost certainly we will be executing them financially, but we're not committing to them. We're only committing to this year. Am I right?
We're committing to let her go out for bids, and then we will commit to whether or not.
That's all we're doing now is
So
just
we're not
giving
making
her
any
permission to
financial
bid.
commitments at this point.
Right.
So up and bid.
Cool enough.
Commissioner Lathrop, we're going to bring these back in June,
Okay.
and you'll have a full presentation. The amount of money that's already in the capital improvement fund is accounted for in the first phase, and then the next presentation that Ming has. We'll bring back the bids in June for your review and analysis.
In June or in May?
In May.
It says May on the list.
Very good. May, even better.
Even better, yeah. Thank you.
So the third item.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
So for the third item and the fourth item, actually it's the third and the fourth line. On base is sole source software that the county already has been using for 10 years. It's the backbone for the court paperless system. But right now, we're using version 13, which is the 2013 version that is not supporting Windows 10 operating system. So we have to update our system, because right now if I buy a new laptop, normally it's going to come in Windows 10, and I cannot use on base. It just doesn't make any sense. So for the update part for the update, it has to change our scripting to able to work with the version 17. So for the update, one-time cost is $29,750. And I was wrong, it was not biannually, it's a one-time cost. So that's my third item. And then the fourth item, I would like to do data encryption on the on-base data. Then we will meet our requirement for HIPAA and CJIS and the FBI audit and the financial system, which is is going to be great because we upgrade the major system plus doing data encryption. And this one will be the one-time cost of $19,345.08, and the ongoing support cost will be $3,224.18 per year.
So move.
Support. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Commissioners. IT has done a lot of work on this, and they've really done a lot of planning for the next few years of IT upgrades, and this is really supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Ming.
Thank you.
Nice job.
It's good to see us moving
Thank
forward
you,
with
and
some
truly, I thank you for my team
It is.
too, and John did an amazing job with me with the same project.
And just to, that was why the city was here as well, but you probably knew that, but they were hoping that this would be approved, so thank you.
Because they get to use it too?
Well, they pay. They do pay.
Thank you,
so.
Dean.
They rely.
You make them pay. They didn't pay.
The next item is Resource Recovery Manager, and, okay, are you taking this?
All right, yes. So we had a panel review some applications and provided us a single applicant to review. That applicant, as you know, removed his interest. So a second applicant, Mr. Dave Schaefer, who is the current Benzie County Resource Recovery Manager, interviewed with Mr. Forsyth and I can tell you that the interview was very impressive. He's an impressive applicant and candidate, knows resource recovery upside and down, and was thinking ahead enough to contact Mr. Bott. He had the budget. He knew what was going on inside our budget. He knew what was going inside our plan. He made recommendations. We had discussion about possible funding sources. It was a very good interview. The item presented to you says, upon a reference check, I can tell you that our HR department has already done that reference check, and all references have checked out with nothing but positive feedback from Mr. Schaefer. So if we could amend the request to actually offer him employment this evening, that would be great.
So move.
Support.
Questions?
Yeah, I just have a question. Does that mean the complete background check is complete? I mean, not just the references, but a complete background check has been done?
Well, I'm not sure what type of background checks are historically done.
Oh, okay.
But the references that he provided, each one of them have been contacted and have checked out.
Okay.
You want a further background of Mr. Schaefer, or?
No, I just didn't know what we were asking. So,
I think that's
yeah.
typically it. They do run, I think, a driver's license and a criminal history check as well. That
would
will all
hope
pass.
so.
And then he'll have to do a medical physical and things of that nature, but that would be subsequent to a job offer.
Okay.
I think, one other factor that enters into this will be our termination of the contract with IRIS. So I'm sure there's a time frame involved in that. So I think we need to coordinate, his start date with theirs so we don't end up with a significant lapse anyway.
And one thing I was going to suggest is maybe the board just wants to adopt a resolution saying that administration can go ahead and begin the process of transitioning away from IRIS. In essence, authorize us to terminate that agreement.
I'm fine with that.
So
Cheryl made the motion.
I would
I'm
amend
fine
my
with that in a
motion to
second.
include that.
I just know that there's a second piece in this action that, when we hire someone, we're not going to want to continue to pay a contract.
Mr. Schaefer is also very well aware of IRIS and has a relationship with them, so with the minimal amount of turnover.
Sarah's been working in northern Michigan for a long time. She knows a lot about what goes on in our counties.
Yes.
And we're very fortunate to.
And I did have conversation with one of the commissioners from Benzie County, and he did speak highly of Dave, and we'll be sorry to see him go, and but happy for him to better himself. So,
Super.
good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Brings us to the Road Commission and the South Airport bonding.
Can I make my vote contingent on getting rid of the frost law?
No.
Good evening. It gets worse and worse every year.
Don't like
It eats
that?
me alive this time of the year, it just does.
Jim Cook, Grand Traverse County Road Commission, and I'm here at least to give you a heads up that 2018 we had between $12 and $13 million in projects slated. One of our major projects is the South Airport Road project, which we're going to do the segment between Vets Drive and US 31. So we don't have quite enough cash to do every project we want to do this year, and we feel very strongly we really need to do something with South Airport. It's in pretty tough shape. We've been spending a lot of money kind of patching it together over the last 3 years, and so our board has approved us moving forward with the project, and we are currently working with the county finance director and the bonding agent on a draft resolution that our board will be looking at next week, or not next week, on the 21st, and then we'll bring that resolution back to the county for your approval to bond the South Airport Road project. The project is estimated to be between $3 and $4 million. And again, it's a complete reconstruction of that segment of road.
So what happens to all the traffic?
Take it down 8th Street.
Well,
Just, you got to have a plan, right?
yeah, we have a plan, and, the issue is it's never convenient, but the nice thing about it is we have a 5-lane road there, and so we won't know until we actually have bids back from the contractor, but we've been talking with contractors on how important it is to move this project forward. First thing in the spring, our goal is to have it completed before July. And again, we're not going to block anybody from having access to a business. There'll always be at least, one lane going each way. And I'm sure that just like a lot of projects we do on South Airport, we'll be doing a lot of the paving work at night. So I think the disruption it'll be inconvenient, but it won't be horrible.
If you bonded for the bypass too at the same time, you might be able to get that first and then alleviate some of the...
Yeah, well, that's in the future.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to authorize the Finance Department to begin the process to obtain bonds for South Airport Road on behalf of the Grand Traverse County Road Commission.
Support. Discussion.
Oh, is there an amount?
3 to 4 million.
3 to 4 million, not just as a range?
It has to be bid out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
We never like to give out the exact estimate because
Because you're not in charge of that.
Contractors are probably watching me right now.
We'll go to that and a little more. So.
Yeah.
Dan?
Are you going to change the way the water flows onto the road? Going to be the same configuration? It'll be a bridge? What will it be?
No,
Are you going to
There isn't
repair?
any water
They're
there.
not that far yet.
They're not that far yet.
Oh,
Just to veterans, didn't you say?
Yeah, this is just from Vets Drive to US 31.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is another project on South Airport that we're doing this year, which is the Logan's Landing area.
Okay,
But we actually stopped short of the culverts, and
okay.
we're basically making that into a high-tech Michigan left.
Are you going to do that? You're going to eliminate the light there at Logan's Landing?
We'll leave it in place just in case we ever need it for emergency purposes, but that light is not going to function as part of the system.
So you have to go down like in Florida. You'll have to get in the left hand, turn around, come loop back.
This will be the second one in the state of Michigan. If you were on Big Beaver Road down in Southfield,
Yes, been there.
it's
Yep.
exactly
I
like that.
I like them.
It functions very well.
Keeps
so.
traffic moving, which is nice. Cool.
Okay, I'm happy.
Is the bond council that you would be using, or we would be using does that get bid out, or?
We would be using John Axe. No, we
Okay.
generally, we haven't bid that out. We're using John Axe at this point.
Does it make sense to bid that out? Are there other bond councils that?
There are other bond councils. I know that just prior to when I left in 2015, I went through that process, had both the bond counsel and the financial advisor bid out, and I was told to sit on that. So John Axe, his firm, was the low bidder, and I would have recommended Axe. He's with a different firm, Clark Hill, now. If you want us to bid it out, we could. I think at this point in time, though, that may delay this project, and that would be my reservation against doing that, but certainly have no apprehension against bidding that out going forward. Be more than happy to do that, but I think that would put the road commission at a serious disadvantage here if you're trying to get this project done this year.
And that's not my intention to do that. It's just that when it does come up again, if we bid out.
More than happy to start that process and bid out for those services.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
As soon as the frost laws go off, we'll get on this project.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll come back with that resolution the end of this month or beginning of April. Thank you.
Thank you.
Second public comment. Looks like most of our public has left. Commissioner reports? Hearing none. Closed session?
No.
Adjourned.
Thank you very much.
Alrighty then. Good job.